The inventor of the God of War games just said that God of War Ragnarok, despite the fact that it is the most hyped PlayStation 5 game, looks like DLC. And honestly, the internet is incredibly pissed. I want to take a look at this debate because I do feel like the entire argument of sequel versus DLC, $60 versus $70 is a very, very interesting new topic that is something I think is going to be coming up a lot in the coming years. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Now, first and foremost, this week is actually the 4th anniversary of God of War 2018, a game that completely blew my mind. In the past, I've actually been a bit of a God of War hater. I thought a lot of the early games with Kratos felt overly angry, overly simplistic. I just didn't care too much for that older series, but I could appreciate what it was doing. It was a game that felt unique and savage. It was trying to do something, it set out, and it definitely accomplished it. God of War on PS4 essentially rebooted the saga though, and I feel like this new direction it's decided to go in is much more of my style. More of this narrative-focused basher of a father and son trying to defeat the cosmos. This new set of gods, this new set of chaos. I love, love, love what they decided to do. Well, here's what's kind of fascinating. This is David Scott Jaffe. Now, in his description right here, you can see this man actually is the video game designer and director of things like Twisted Metal, God of War, and Mickey Mania. So quite a wide selection of creative powers. But everybody knows him most as the maker of Twisted Metal and God of War. Now, on his podcast called Gabbin' Games, he said that he believes God of War Ragnarok looks like DLC, and people seem to be incredibly pissed. So over here on David's Twitter, we see him trying to explain the circumstance a bit more clearly because he is getting a lot of backlash. You can see right here, even in this tweet, people are basically still trying to call him out. He says, "Oh my god, it is a sequel. Who's claiming it isn't a sequel? Why must everything be a thing? I'm saying it's a sequel that looks like DLC, meaning it picks up right where the first game left off. It doesn't look like it's going to be that much different, which is fine because the original game was Game of the Year." Now, I will say in this case, David Jaffe, if we just took this statement specifically on its own, we only have about 3 minutes of gameplay that have actually been released for God of War Ragnarok. And, I mean, while this stuff looks fantastic to me, the new settings, the new monsters, the new areas, I'm personally extremely excited for this game, but people are doing a bunch of side-by-side comparisons that show, like, this is God of War 2018, this is God of War Ragnarok. Okay, they are similar at least. Even things that are actually being redone in the new game, this is the original 2018, this is that same scene now in God of War Ragnarok. Now, I do not see this as a detriment at all. I am a big fan of creator vision. I think we always talk about let the artist be the artist. Let them be free to make what they want. The developers of this game have very explicitly said the words that they think that this is supposed to be a bigger and better project. It's going in different directions. It's trying to do something that feels like it is more than downloadable content. But part of the reason I feel like we are having this conversation is that DLC is getting bigger. Downloadable content feels like it's more spaced out. Ever since we saw The Witcher and Skyrim and Elder Scrolls and stuff, these games keep feeling like they're trying to make bigger expansions. Like, keep in mind, just a couple weeks ago, there was this huge expansion for freaking Assassin's Creed Valhalla that's another 40 hours of content. It's ridiculous that now we're getting downloadable content the size of entire games. So seeing something that seems so similar, I think sometimes people sort of cross the wires in their brain and associate things from one side to the other. What this really brings to mind for me, first and foremost, is actually Horizon Forbidden West, because if you really consider it, that game in its own sense, just from the trailer, does appear to be just DLC. It has similar animations, it's got very similar graphics, it's got very, very identical monster types with a couple extra twists and flares and color palette swaps. But when you actually play the finalized version of Horizon Forbidden West, that game is utterly massive. The fact that there's monsters you can fly on, there's hundreds of different collectibles, there's all sorts of checkpoints, there's so many side quests. I truly believe that just doing a 100% file of Horizon Forbidden West, even on the easiest difficulty, would take you months and months and months. So I think that should sort of be considered now the Sony sequel saga. Basically, consider the fact that Sony seems like when they want to try and do another game, when they want to actually fund that next big project that's going to sell consoles and hopefully sell freaking hype, it's all about how can we make it similar but different? How can we make it new but also have that nostalgia feeling to it? Right now, God of War Ragnarok is still considered to be the most hyped PlayStation 5 game. They've done a series of polls and surveys, and pretty much unanimously, every single person who owns a PlayStation has pretty much promised that they're going to buy God of War Ragnarok, which is probably why they've also been a bit silent about it, is because they realize, okay, there is pressure, there is hype, we need to get this exactly right. Now, I do want to show this tweet here. This guy, Odie, some people love this guy, some people think he's a little bit too much of a PlayStation fanboy. I think his skits and stuff are silly over on Twitter, but he basically says this: why do PlayStation exclusives get labeled DLC before they launch? From Horizon Forbidden West to Gran Turismo 7 and now God of War Ragnarok. I find it offensive and demeaning when a full game is described as such based on one trailer. I'm sure the devs don't like it. This energy is predominantly directed to PlayStation exclusives. Why is that? And it is, again, these quotes from David Jaffe. It just feels like David Jaffe's statements, because he is the inventor of God of War, his words specifically saying, this looks like DLC, it seems to have pressed a button. It seems to have really struck a nerve with a lot of people. I think a lot of this debate, even if people won't consciously acknowledge it, does come down to nervousness, which is the fact that we still haven't seen that much from God of War Ragnarok in general. We still don't have a release date. Like, a lot of the official trailers and freaking websites for Sony say that it's coming out this year, but we haven't seen it. We don't know. I truly believe there is going to be a state of play this week. I do truly believe that there is going to actually be some big new reveals for the game very, very soon. But right now, we are just sitting in the dark. And I feel like also, additionally, a lot of us are excited to know how this game is going to end, even if you do want to consider it overpriced DLC. Because remember, they are saying that this is going to end the new story. God of War Ragnarok is going to conclude the Norse saga. We already know that this is the end. Sony Santa Monica creative director Cory Balrog has confirmed that in an interview, this is going to tie up the entirety of the 2018 God of War saga that's been started off. Now that, to me, is incredibly enticing, it is incredibly exciting, and I do want to see how this goes. I want to see the twists and turns and directions they're possibly going to unfold. God of War 2018 completely blew my mind, and even if this game is something that's just more of the same, even if it is the same great combat, the same great difficulty, the same fun puzzles, the same incredible voice acting, and more of that, I'm fine with it. I still feel like if you just said, here's the best meal you've ever had in your life, and now we've got another one of that exact same meal in the back, I'm going to be excited. I'm not going to ask for some sort of different dish just because the kitchen doesn't make the same thing every single time. I am excited for God of War Ragnarok, but honestly, I'm curious what you guys think. Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. By the way, I meant to mention this. There have been these stupid scammer bots down in the comment section. If you see somebody whose name is WhatsApp and they're asking you to text and saying you want a PlayStation 5, they are scamming liars. Right-click report them because they're just spam bots. They're stupid and they suck, and I promise I'm not giving away a PlayStation 5. I don't have money to give away a PlayStation 5. They're like $8,000 probably. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.